Okay, so Anthem. After playing quite a bit now, experiencing the grind, the gameplay, some missions, and more, it's time for me to do an impressions video and discuss both the good and the bad. The video is going to contain both. Warning, some aspects of the game I find to be very positive, others very, very negative. But for those looking to simply hear someone bash the game, or inversely, praise it non-stop, this probably won't be very appealing to you. Anthem is polarizing, more so than almost any other game I've ever seen in my entire life. Some players are stone cold set on despising it, ridiculing it, and encouraging others to do the exact same thing, while others are bent over on all fours begging for Anthem to bless them with its, well, they're just delusionally hyping the game. People want to hate EA. I get it. I do. They have a burning desire to enforce negative consequences onto one of the most despised and despicable publishers in the entire industry that has bastardized the Star Wars license, manipulated and preyed on its sports franchises, and overall had a negative effect on the industry at large with their greed and their tone-deaf practices. I can understand that desire, but Anthem is not rotten to the core. It is also not even close to a blockbuster, something EA needs at this point, and something that may in fact be necessary for the continued existence of BioWare, but I'll do a separate video on that tomorrow. Anthem is middle of the road. It's good with a lowercase g, and still holds tremendous potential, getting some things right, but it also gets some things wrong, and doesn't really hold much of a lasting wow factor. I'll start with some good. The core foundation of any looter-shooter game, which is what Anthem is, revolves around satisfying combat and rewarding loot. Anthem succeeds in both of these categories. The combat is far from revolutionary, don't get me wrong, and it borrows a great deal from other titles like Mass Effect Andromeda, with dodge mechanics and combo executions. I will say though, quickly, before getting back to the good aspects, the enemy shield bars are horribly balanced. It can take excruciatingly long amounts of time to kill off a single enemy's shield, if it is a higher health enemy that is, and then in a fraction of a second, that entire shield regenerates if you are forced to enter cover or reload at the wrong time and cannot sustain constant damage. It is unbelievably poor design for these particular enemies and can absolutely hinder your overall enjoyment when circumstances align. However, aside from these very specific enemies, the combat is quite satisfying as you call down thunderbolts, fire off missiles, and chain combos together with various different effects. Movement during combat is effective, movement in general is quite good, and the verticality of the world has always been a strong point for the game, but it really does help evolve the combat from a flat, single-plane experience to a wide-open arena of flight, dodging, hovering, and attacking. Many of the enemies are quite bullet spongy, to an absolute extreme sometimes, so you will often just be hovering or hiding behind rocks till your abilities or your shield recharge. That does happen, depending on your preferred javelin type and suit that is, but movement is a strong point regardless, where it does feel satisfying to fly at high speeds throughout the world, as well as navigate the battlefield. Now for the real best feature, and that is the loot. One of the most important aspects, by far, is a player's ability to feel rewarded. Anthem does an excellent job of this, and I would argue it is the game's strongest element by far. As you progress through missions or events or whatever it is, loot rewards drop in a Destiny-style engram format where upon returning from an expedition or a stronghold, the gear identifies and goes to your inventory. Unlike similar titles such as Destiny, you are not doing a strike for 1 or 2 measly pieces of loot, sometimes maybe 3 or 4 if it's a really good run. You are instead earning sometimes dozens of different items for your efforts, and these items range in rarity, power level, stat composition, and javelin affinity. Since there are 4 different javelins that the player eventually unlocks, you are obtaining a variety of gear pieces for a decent number of different slots with different elements associated that fit into different suits, each and every one of them. Since there are so many possibilities, the game can reward you with a great deal of loot for a single mission, making your time seem truly valuable as you constantly find new items that are slightly stronger or different depending on how they function, etc. The crafting also comes into play as you master various weapons and gear pieces, unlocking achievements and medals with those items or gear, thus opening up higher tiered recipes for those specific items. It encourages players to use the gear that they enjoy and then allows them to upgrade the strength of those specific items that they enjoy playing with because they mastered their playstyle and utilized them effectively. It's a decently cohesive system, and there is obviously more depth to it than I was able to experience thus far, but the basic functionality of it, of progressing what you enjoy to further strength levels over time, and the diversity of the drops are overall a very solid foundation. Now onto some of the bad, however. I recently praised Anthem for offering a demo, citing the mislabeling of demos as betas and then offering them in advance of a full release, often barred behind pre-order, but at a point when there was obviously no changes to be implemented. Games like Fallout 76 are guilty of this. It had a beta days before release that even carried over to the final launch. In that case, it was early access being called a beta, but regardless, it was improper usage of the term beta, and it deserved to be called out for it. I praised Anthem for offering a demo and for calling it a demo, and I truly, sincerely should not have done that. Anthem didn't offer a demo. It's closer to a broken alpha. A demo, historically, represents a slice of the final product to inform players and give them a taste leading to either a purchase or pass decision. Anthem offered a broken mess that at the time of launch was already 6+ weeks old, and that 6 weeks is on top of the further month until full release. Anthem also skipped the beta stage, going straight from closed alpha with a non-disclosure agreement to VIP demo. Between those two offerings, very little, if anything, improved, and for over 9 hours after initial demo release, demo in air quotes there, the Xbox version was completely unplayable and locked users out behind a blank loading screen that went nowhere. In addition to all this, other services that EA has were crashing at the time. EA Help went down. Other EA games, to my knowledge, were going down. Origin went down. They were investigating issues across all of their games and services. That's how much of a disaster this launch was. PC and PS4 got fixed first, but even then they were and are plagued by infinite loading screens that require a full hard restart, and they happen about half the time or more every time you load in somewhere, sometimes experiencing horrific desync, lag, and overall performance, plus extensive reports of the PC version having terrible FPS issues as well. The demo is not a demo. It's an alpha being called a demo to try and cash in on easy community sentiment points while being just as disingenuous as the rest of the gaming industry and their fake beta demos themselves. Now, a lot of players will obviously claim that the bug fixing has already happened and this isn't even worth being concerned about because it will be better at launch. Well, how many times have we heard that before? The game did not improve its performance to any overly large degree through multiple closed doors offerings right into their professed VIP demo. So blind faith that the full release will suddenly fix all the FPS problems, as well as isolate and nullify the myriad of game-breaking bugs that the demo displays, let's hope so, sure, but just be fully aware of the situation. Another mild complaint is the lack of surrounding systems, especially the social ones. The game is a shared world, multiplayer, online-only experience, yet the social hubs are completely antisocial. Picture the tower from Destiny, but deserted, completely and constantly. There is no player-to-player trading, there's no PvP, and a lack of the most iconic single-player and story-driven systems that BioWare is known for doing so well. This does not mean by default that the game is bad. In fact, as a looter shooter, it seems to succeed quite well in some of the core categories, but the potential audience for this game is not overly large. It's clear from even a small amount of gameplay that the progression blooms out with an extensive array of options. As more component slots unlock, more avenues of building become available, and even with a limited slice, it was able to hold my interest for quite some time, actually, to a very large degree. Hence it being impossible for me to condemn the game as bad, awful, or something of the like. But when fighting a certain type of tank, it became clear it was the exact same design as Destiny's spider tanks. It had a couple of different attacks, sort of, but instances like that make it equally as impossible to advertise this game as anything other than good with a lowercase g. It's fine, but it's far from a game changer or an industry leader. The demo also made the interesting decision to disallow players from playing as all 4 javelins, and seeing as each javelin holds a distinctly different playstyle, that means players have a sort of 50% view of whether or not they truly enjoy the combat, since they may love the storm, hovering above the action, dishing the damage and other elemental effects from afar, or the Colossus, up close and personal with its flamethrower and other heavy weaponry, but they instead chose differently and were not able to get a taste of the playstyle they would have enjoyed. It's really not a great decision. Lastly, we have cosmetic customization. The cosmetic system is robust. There are different materials, different colors, vinyls, suit components, emotes, and more. For the moment, every single item costs 25 coins, and players are given a large amount of coins during demo offerings to buy things at will. But this is pretty transparent in its mission to simply extrapolate which items are most desirable and bought most frequently, and then hike the price up on full release for those specific items and layer in the microtransactions. It was openly acknowledged on Twitter that the Anthem demo would have super different balancing, and that's a quote, and a completely different economy from the final launch. So yes, microtransactions are cosmetic only, and they are not going to implement loot boxes at launch, hopefully ever, but are we as a player base so naive as to think that EA's aggressive monetization trajectory and their inability to monetize gameplay altering boosts or anything other than cosmetics, that they will not absolutely eviscerate this game's customization? It is an extremely high probability that the cosmetic systems will be an absolute gauntlet of microtransaction hoops to jump through. And yes, the tired old defense, it's just cosmetics, so it's okay. But in a game that has a clean and robust aesthetic customization system, it would be of a very real detriment to the game as a whole if they over-monetize that area. Lastly, to reiterate, the demo is anything but a demo. The absolute best feature, which is the loot, the availability of rewards, and the satisfaction it offers, and by the way, it's really satisfying to complete missions, it truly is. All of that could be completely different at launch. After all, the balance is super different, meaning mission rewards, enemy strength, ability power, who knows? This feeling of uncertainty is not what a demo should instill, and not what Anthem needs in its already relatively controversial state. If you enjoy looter shooters, sci-fi and fantasy settings, fast-paced combat, chaining abilities together, and slowly upgrading loadouts piece by piece to improve their power, you will very likely enjoy Anthem. It's not very well optimized on PC, warning, but there's actually a pretty cool solution to that which players might find of some use. Warning, sponsorship plug incoming. Since Anthem runs on the Frostbite engine and is, with all its settings turned up and running smoothly, absolutely gorgeous, I must acknowledge that, it is appealing for players to be able to experience it in all its glory. Well, enter our channel sponsor, Shadow. Shadow is a remote gaming PC service that houses hardware in a data center and then players stream the gameplay to and from that data center. Now, because of this process, there is a small amount of input lag, which is why I never advertise the service for games like PUBG or Call of Duty or Rainbow Six Siege, because in PvP games like that, especially FPS games, the tiny fraction of a second is nearly 100% critical almost every single time. But Anthem is a PvE experience centering on ability damage, combos, positioning, etc., and things of that nature, so it does not have that same exact issue. Shadow is a monthly subscription and lets players use pretty much any device out there, even older laptops or tablets, to stream the gameplay at maximum settings, because your local device isn't under any strain, and the hardware that they have in their data center is top of the line. They have also given us a very big discount, so if you want to check out the service for Anthem or any other PC game for that matter, to try it out for a month or two while you work on your own machine, anything like that, use code UEG at checkout to both get a hefty discount and to support the channel. Okay, though, sponsorship is over now. Anthem will definitely have its audience. It will be relatively successful, and I don't predict a Fallout 76 level catastrophe, not by a long shot, but people want to hate EA. Anthem can't rightly succeed to any massive degree while that sort of crushingly negative atmosphere surrounds its publisher, and as a result, well, it will likely be a generic multiplayer looter that performs adequately, but nothing more. If I'm wrong, well, I'll eat my words. Players are starved for that feeling of accomplishment and satisfaction, which Anthem does do a very good job at providing, so who knows, it's up in the air. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for my first impressions video. I'll be covering the concept of adequate being far from enough when it comes to the future of BioWare, though, sometime within the next few days, which might be a more interesting topic, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, I'll wrap it up there. Check out the links down below. We have new esports merchandise with custom name, gamertag, and number, a Facebook group, Discord server, gaming forums, all for gamers to get more connected, and some other stuff too, but that's it. I'll stop rambling. Thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.